It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 259 for the end of the year. Like, literally the end of the year. It's between Christmas and New Year's. We're here. We're hungover, probably. Or maybe we're not. Who knows? Hopefully our voices don't betray us. I'm one of your co-hosts, Steve Wright. Joining me, Ben Salter. Hello, Ben. Happy almost New Year.
Yeah, happy Christmas to you and the fam, and a happy New Year. We're in that period of happy holidays, as it's known. And when you just overindulge and eat too much and you need to see all the people, and that just means constant eating. It's that time of year.
Yes, well, and drinking. Do you see this red concoction? Do you see this red concoction that I have? This is my Christmas present to myself.
What, Bloody Mary? What is that?
It's just a beer and clam. Surely you remember the beer and clam.
Canada's... I do, and I thought just the beer was better. You ruined it by adding some... like clamato juice?
Reconstituted clam broth and tomato juice into my beer? No, it's much better that way. Let me assure you. And if you haven't had the gloriousness that is clamato juice, you really should. It's not obtainable here, really. And that's why I treat myself. I have a whole bunch of root beer downstairs, too, as a Christmas present to myself. So that's cool, I think.
Yeah, we don't really have Christmassy drinks. It's just constant boozing all the time. So there's not like the Australian Christmas booze. It's just booze.
Well, root beer is just, it's not alcohol. I guess I could put vodka in it and it wouldn't change the taste. But then I would be wasting the root beer, really. I'm just drinking the root beer. Let's please move on from whatever I was trying to do comedically or something. I don't know. This is Stevivor's long-running video game podcast. We try to be funny. It's more like just two friends talking and not caring what other people think. So, thanks for joining us.
Kick us into gear. It's the end of the year.
All right.
Yeah. What have we been doing the last few weeks on Stevivor?
Just slowly trying not to die, treading, I think. But if you mean specifically, we've been counting down our Game of the Year awards, and we're like 2 away. We've gone through everything from sports game all the way to Xbox game. Tomorrow morning is going to be PlayStation game, and then we finish up with Game of the Year. I'm pretty happy just to kind of spoil it all. If you're listening to this, you get like a 2-day advance go if you really want.
Do it.
Well, like everything was basically in twos, and it wasn't like planned out or anything. It was just people voting for things. Alan Wake got Game of the Year. Spoilers. It only got Best Narrative from us otherwise, so that's its 2 awards. Baldur's Gate 3 got RPG and Direction, so like, you know, that was the Game Awards Game of the Year. That's kind of up there with Alan Wake as potentially Game of the Year. Mm-hmm. We gave 2 to Spider-Man Action Adventure and Best PlayStation Game. I think that's it for the doubles. And in there, there's Tears of the Kingdom. There's Hi-Fi Rush got our Best Xbox and Best Audio. Mario Kart 8 got Best Ongoing. It's a good year for video games, is I think what this list really says. What do you think of our list and the state of games in general?
It's very much the what we've spoken about the last few weeks. It's been the year of the big hitting sequel, the year of the remake, the year of the remaster, the year of the RPG. So if any of that is in your wheelhouse, what we probably were missing this year is new stuff you hadn't really seen before. It's a lot of kind of comebacks and direct sequels and things like that, but all worthy and great games. So like Alan Wake, huge gap between games really. Even Zelda, like Tears of the Kingdom, it's been a long time since Breath of the Wild came out. So like I think enough time has passed. Spider-Man feels more recent, but it's not really. I think it's just because we had the half game in between makes it feel a little more recent than it really was.
Yeah.
Good to see it win some awards. It didn't win any at the Game Awards, despite being nominated for like basically everything. I don't think it should have won Best Action Adventure. I think Zelda is clearly ahead of it, but good game. Yeah, all around good. And a nice mix as well between different platforms. I mean, you got Mario Kart in there for Best Ongoing. You've got Hi-Fi Rush and Xbox game for Best Audio. Spider-Man's in there. Like a nice mix across the board. But then end of the day, the contenders for the Game of the Year have largely been multi-platform. So I think pretty much every outlet has gone with either Alan Wake or Baldur's Gate. So the two clear standout this year.
Yep, and we'll talk about the two clear contenders a little bit later on. It's weird, like you're talking about sequels. There's nothing in our list that isn't a sequel apart from Star Trek Infinite, which is basically a Stellaris mod that's been licensed, so I don't think that counts. And Cocoon, which is really, really good. It's like a 4D kind of puzzle game, but it's very much like the Limbos, the Insides. Like it's a sequel, but not, which is good.
Spiritual successor.
Yeah, like if you like those games, you're gonna like this. It's very colorful. It's different in that aspect. It's very colorful and full of light and sort of optimism, I think. I'm not sure. I haven't finished it yet. But like puzzles that involve you from like going up and doing things in like the same space you're in, but also going to like different planes or like different kind of worlds. So you really have to use your head, which is quite good. So I'd wholeheartedly recommend. Well, most of the games, 99% of the games on this list, like I think our sports game, Forza Motorsport, like it just kind of filled the gap. Like we needed a sports game. I think we're gonna probably Stevivor-wise include fighting game in with sports next year. I don't know if that would change things. I'd probably give it to Street Fighter 6 personally in that case.
Yeah, they're all the same. Yep.
Yep. So I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about our game of the year, or just want to talk about 2003 in general?
Nah, 2023.
Oh yeah.
That's a real throwback. Let's look at the year in general. Look back on the year that was. I think nice to start with the biggest surprises, the things that we didn't really see coming. And probably the thing that I didn't mention before, that the year being, is it was the year of the epic shadow drop. Like we had a surprising number of games and it's out now, which is the thing. If you've listened to this podcast for the last like 10 years or however long it's been, that's always been our thing. Our thing's always, that's always our prediction. Every E3 we're like, it's going to be available today. They barely did it. This year, heaps. Hi-Fi Rush probably being the biggest. So I think Xbox didn't think it was going to be as big of a hit as it was, and they just kind of announced and released it, which was pretty cool and a good way to get it publicity.
Yeah. Oh, and it was super fun. It's that thing where like we didn't review it because it's on Game Pass, it's free, and it's immediate. So by the time we played it, formulated thoughts, published, like you don't care. You could just be already playing it yourself. But I played it through completion. It's great. It was like a cool rock band-esque kind of rhythm game with some hack and slash, just with a cool vibe and aesthetic with likable characters. I'm not sure why they thought this was going to be kind of low-key. Like, this is a great game.
Yeah, it's weird.
And it outperformed Starfield, at least with us. And I think that's accurate. Like, Starfield's great, but there's nothing to write home about. I'd recommend Hi-Fi Rush to someone in a heartbeat.
Unless they were just trying a different release model for a game which was never going to be released at retail. I think that's a key part of it. There's nothing to consider in that regard. And then Metroid Prime Remastered was like, it came out a few weeks later or something like that, maybe a month or two later. Also awesome. So I think probably the best. And they kind of did it the other way. They did it's a shadow dropping today, digital, and we're going to release it at physical retailers if you want to do that in like 3 or 4 months down the track. So we've covered that one in high detail previously as well. Pretty much just as good as you can expect from a direct remaster. So not a remake, an actual remaster. The old game's there. It's just touched up, newer controls, and priced reasonably. So this was $60, which means it got down to $30 very quickly, Australian dollars, which is great to see. Not everything has to be $125.
Yeah. Well, and this was like the year of Ben being very happy because you finally got your Metroid Prime Remastered. If you had Metroid Prime 4, you would have been happier, I'd imagine. But you finally got your GoldenEye. Finally got your GoldenEye.
Not remastered.
Well, there you
HD.
go. And on multi-platform, too. It wasn't just a Switch thing. So
multi-platform, only playable on Xbox, I'd say, because it has modern controls added, which the Switch version doesn't. Which it just breaks your head trying to play this with a single stick. But yeah, I finished it. I got like nearly the 1,000 gamer score. Did a lot of the weird, because that's like a fun way that achievements still apply for me. Doing the weird little quirky things in a game you really like to try to get the 1,000. Whatever the ones I missed are the impossible, like super hard. I think you need to finish one of the missions in like 2 minutes or something, which is just impossible on the hardest difficulty. So not going to happen. I thought it held up surprisingly well for a game of its era. It's not really remastered. Actually, it's not at all. It's just up-resed to HD. Some people thought it was altered to be in widescreen. Not the case. The original game from the 90s had widescreen support, which is kind of wild. So it's just played. It's just forced to go into widescreen. Even the Switch. That's why the Switch version has widescreen. It's just a straight emulation, so it's had less work to it than even this version. Yeah, I think it holds up surprisingly well considering how old it is. Noting that it's an ancient game, so you need to kind of expect that. You need to probably have the history with it. I think if you'd never played it and you tried to play it, you'd be like, "What the hell?" But yeah, finally, and a nice little Game Pass game as well. You didn't have to really invest in it to play it.
Nice. And I guess the next big surprise of the year is that Cyberpunk actually got good. I don't think it was ever bad, but that's because I was playing the Series X version or the PC version, and they were pretty optimized. If you were playing on PS4, obviously it got pulled from the PlayStation Store. If you were playing on Xbox One, you'd have issues as well. But not only did CD Projekt Red kind of fix all the issues with Update 2, they released a giant expansion with Idris Elba, that's how you say it, called Phantom Liberty. I haven't played it really yet. Have you had a chance to check out the DLC?
No, and I actually might, which goes against my general rules of never playing DLC. But it's just so well loved, and it's kind of the redemption arc. Like it's the Cyberpunk was so trashed on. I played the actual game properly maybe a year ago. I think I probably did it as my Christmas game last Christmas. So it got good by then. Like a bunch of the dodginess was patched out. Then I remember after I'd played it, the 2.0 update came out, and they were like, "We've changed a bunch of HUD elements and like heaps of things have been fixed." But by that point, I'd already played it, and it felt good when I played it. So still good that they're continuing to improve it and get it to where they originally kind of pitched it, and then they followed that up with like an epic news story to kind of make it worthwhile for people like us to go back to and play again. So yeah, it's the full circle, and it's kind of finally reaching the dizzying heights that we expected it to originally.
Yeah. I think the issue that I had is I tried to reload my original save, and it's been like a year, and I had no idea what I was doing. But you can load into Phantom Liberty with the updates and everything and just start a new game, but like kind of get coached along. And I think that's what I need to do. I've heard nothing but good things about it, though, so I'm excited to jump in. I'm probably going to try to get to that before the end of the year. And we'll talk about that. Let's talk about it now. Steve. What's your like Christmas time game? I think I'm debating getting my butt around to playing Mirage, because like Assassin's Creed used to be my Christmas jam, and I wasn't really vibing with it, and it's kind of like I'm gonna force myself to do it, but I'm not sure I'm gonna even enjoy it, which is horrible because you liked it. But anyway, talk to that.
It was a
what
throwback to what I liked. A bit of a scattered dice approach from me. Dabbling in Baldur's Gate. We'll chat about that more later. I'm not going to finish it, but I still enjoy it. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which has been my game that I always have been it's always been my next game in the queue. And every time I almost get to it, something else has released and jumped ahead. So I haven't actually played it. And I would love to before the end of the year. So I kind of think that's my last few days of 2023. That's what I'm going to play. And I'm also somewhat tempted to go and try the GTA San Andreas dodgy Definitive Edition remaster. So when I reviewed that ages ago, I played through GTA 3 and Vice City and a bit of San Andreas. And by that point, it's like, this is rubbish. They patched it up a heap since then. I'm kind of tempted to go back and finish it because it's the only one of the three that I didn't. And obviously the original game many years ago I did. And because of the GTA 6 hype, I'm like, maybe I'll go try it again. And it was always my favorite. That's also why I didn't really keep playing it, because it's the one I didn't want to tarnish the memory of the most. So I thought I'm just going to stop. But now I'm tempted to try again.
Nice. Well, let us know how you go. We'll reconvene.
Yeah.
Maybe late January. We're going to take a little bit of a break, I think, but we'll see how we did. Those are the good things about this year. And there's like every other game that we've already talked about, also a good thing about this year. Lots of bad, though, I think, in 2023. And we sort of, especially if we're the Game Awards, kind of skirt over that. And the biggest thing is, there's been so many layoffs. Like, I think the last count that I saw, like mid-December, was like 9,000 jobs had been lost in the industry. We saw like League of Geeks just laid off like a whole team that worked on Jumplight Odyssey, and I think it was like 40 or 50% of their workforce. I think they said, not a fact-based show. Embracer Group was buying up huge over the pandemic, and now is just letting people go left, right, and center. Tons of studios closing up. Tencent just let go of Team Kaiju reportedly. It's dire. So let's not talk about that. We've talked about that, and it's depressing. So sorry to everyone who's lost their job. Tons of other things though, like Google's Stadia, the streaming service that was supposed to rival Game Cloud, Xbox Game Cloud. What the hell do they call it? Xbox Cloud Gaming.
Cloud
xCloud.
gaming.
That's done. It quit. It folded up in January.
Yeah. That was this year. Crazy. And that just died suddenly. It was a real they just kind of said, nope, we're out.
Well, never even came to Australia. And if you somehow have an xCloud, a Stadia device, you have an extra year to turn on its Bluetooth functionality to use the controller elsewhere. But since Stadia doesn't exist, like if you haven't done that yet, why haven't you done that yet? You should do it. E3 is also gone. We talked about that last week. We talked about that for like 2 episodes back in April. I think it was time. I think E3 has long been useless, and like I met you there. Like there's a ton of good things that I remember about E3, but they're like the
different time,
the 2017s and 18s of a kind of year, not the 2020 anything.
And before, really, to be honest, I think when they went public in 17 or 18, whenever it was, that was kind of the beginning of the end, or even earlier, really. It was just there was really no coming back from the fact that it didn't know what it was anymore. Was it meant to be a trade show? Was it meant to be a media event? Was it meant to be a public event like PAX? Didn't really know, and tried to be a little bit of everything. And there was no way it was going to survive long term. The pandemic probably killed it quicker, but it was a bit confused for its last few years.
Yeah, well, and we could get into a larger chat about the games journalist becoming more and more obsolete as time passes, and the message being controlled by publishers and developers exactly how they want it without the middleman, or just dropping cash on influencers to say whatever they want. But I digress. The eShop on Wii U and 3DS has shut down, which we've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
That means a lot of stuff's just no longer available. Like if you don't have it, you don't have it, and maybe we don't have it collectively as society.
That it's kind of mirroring how things are going with streaming elsewhere. Nintendo's online service is a lot more limited, and you don't actually stream. You kind of all those games are automatically downloaded, but it's the same type of thing where you just have the subscription and you get whatever's in the catalog, and it's way less than what was on the eShop with the 3DS and the Wii U. So heaps of games, because the Wii U largely inherited a bunch of the Wii's virtual console games. So there's just got years worth of these old games which you could legally buy at a reasonable price. Like the classic Pokemon Game Boy games were like $12 or something. If you try to buy a cart of one of those on eBay, they're way more than that. So it was like an actual way to get those, and they're not on the Switch, Switch Online, not virtual consoles. So yeah, just like heaps of games got lost, and it's not that I go back and play them often, but it's the fact that they're just no longer in print or available to actually buy is a bit disappointing.
Yeah. Well, like I've got that Xbox disc of the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer game that it still goes into my Xbox Series. No, it doesn't. It does not go into my Xbox Series X because the license doesn't work. But I can pull out the 360 and put that in the 360 and play it. If that disc scratches beyond repair, like it's gone. It's sad. And the more time progresses, the more things like that happen. Games are just lost to time. Good games, nostalgic, inducing games that are lost to time, which is
absolutely
sad. But I don't know what we're doing about it. Nothing. Embracer was supposed to have some sort of game historical museum kind of thing, but I'm sure that's been canned with all their
it's probably off
monetary woes.
Yeah, that was Nintendo's biggest failing. I think the biggest L's for the year go to Xbox. They had 2 pretty major ones. One is just the Series S's general failings handed the PS5 and Sony a timed exclusive of Baldur's Gate 3. So an RPG which obviously they weren't as worried about, and it happened to launch at exactly the same time as Starfield, and it just massively overshadowed it. So that was not meant to be on PlayStation 3 or 4 months earlier than Xbox. It just happened to be because of the Series S. Probably some good came out of it. Like Phil conceded that not everything needs absolute parity between the consoles, resolution aside. So the Series S doesn't have the same local co-op features that the Series X and the PS5 have. I think that's fine. Like it's a good solution. If you want to play the game is still there on Series S. I think that's probably what they need moving forward to stop these things happening in future. But that was a real big mistake on Xbox's behalf.
Oh yeah, and like it's on Xbox, and it's had crashing issues, it's had save issues. Like it's just the stuff. Like I don't know what. Like Larian just stopped working on the Xbox version because they couldn't get it out in time and said,
Yeah.
"Nah, we're done." So it's like now it's just a game of catch up in so many different ways, which it's I don't think there's a lot of people deciding they're going to play this on Xbox for the first time. They're like, "Oh, maybe I'll try it." And I've played it. We'll talk about it later. Like it's all right, but it's not necessarily for me, and the people that would have lapped it up, had to go to PS5 or PC months ago, years ago, if we're talking about PC. So that just means, less sales that Microsoft takes a 30% cut of.
Yeah, entirely Microsoft's fault. They didn't come to the table early enough. Larian, I think, tried to go to them and ask, could we get around the Series S rule? And they just got told the parity line. And it wasn't until it was a mega hit on PS5 and Xbox realized their mistake that Phil went and spoke to them personally about it. So yeah, entirely their failing. Their other big one, which is probably even bigger, was the fact that they killed off Xbox Live Gold as a brand and just totally made a hash of it. They turned it into Game Pass Core. They didn't make Game Pass Core a useful thing. Like they've confused the Game Pass subscriptions. This was, if they were ever going to kill off Xbox Live Gold, which is probably their strongest brand outside the console itself, they should have done, we're going to make multiplayer games free, because they are on to play. And they are on PC, and so they're so big on play anywhere, choose a device. We want you to empower you to play where you want, but then we don't charge you on PC to play. We do on Xbox still. It kind of seemed like that could have been their big move to one, unify, just have the one subscription brand, but two, get a step ahead of the competitors and kind of do that. But instead, they've just made it messy. The fact that the different tiers, it doesn't level up to the middle tier of Game Pass doesn't have paid multiplayer in it, which is just crazy. It's too complicated.
There's so many broken things about both PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass, and like PlayStation just raised its pricing like astronomically, and that could have been like, oh, this is the worst thing to happen. But Microsoft has made it so confusing as to what you're getting and what you need to get for what you want. It's like I updated all the gift guides that I do each year, like God are giving a console, here's your thing, and like just trying to remember exactly what happens with Game Pass was a nightmare. It's like, okay, so now there's core, so cloud saves and stuff isn't part of that. You get cloud saves if you have a Microsoft account, so don't worry about that, you don't have to pay. But if you want to play online multiplayer, that's core, and you get like 36 or something, 36 plus asterisk games, and then you could, if you wanted to do the Game Pass proper, then you get Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass, but that doesn't have online multiplayer, but it has more games to download like a Netflix style. It's just a nightmare. And then if someone's kind of like used to the PlayStation style, it's like, okay, so cloud saves aren't on any tier, but you can get Plus to get cloud saves. So if you have multiple consoles, you need that, especially if you're going to bounce between them. But then in Australia, we have Deluxe, which means you don't get this or that because Premium's here. Like, if you weren't living and breathing this, I have no idea how you would keep up. Like, it takes like a chart and like 20 minutes to explain on either side, Xbox or PlayStation, what's going on. And yeah, Sony kind of stuffed up because they've charged way more than I think anybody wants. But like Microsoft's is just incredibly confusing now. And people are going to buy Core and think they get Game Pass proper, or people are going to buy Game Pass proper and think they can go and play Call of Duty, and they can't, because that's the different, like, it's a loop of madness.
It's super confusing. Yeah.
Let's
go back to happier times. Go back to the happier times. Let's go. So we've had the big wins, the losses, I think, or maybe the surprises. I think there were also some unexpected wins. So let's end on a high. The things that we didn't think were going to be as massively successful as they were. Baldur's Gate 3, now's the time to talk about it. It's been out in early release for ages, but I think it's kind of an example of doing early access right, in that it got its proper release and it got all this publicity, it got rave reviews, and it's way bigger of a hit and kind of more mainstream, almost Cyberpunk level mainstream, than I really expected.
Yeah.
Everyone I've heard playing it loves it. It's not the type of game I'd normally play, and yet I still really like it. Like I've only played about 4 hours. I'm not going to finish this game. I just don't have the hundreds of hours to put into it. I'm also the combat's just too slow for me. I'm not really a turn-based player for that duration, and yet I still really like it. Like I can get it. Like from the opening cutscenes and the opening kind of introduction to the story, you can tell why it was so well loved. Like it's just got that vibe about it. The story seems quite engrossing. Kind of wish there was maybe a more of a story mode that kind of cut down a lot of the combat. Even on Explorer difficulty, like you still need to go through the turn-based, very slow D&D style kind of action, so it just takes forever. But I also get it if they took that out, like that's the game. So like it's D&D the game, so that would kind of be why. I think you do need to either know the rules of D&D, which I don't, or you need to be a very savvy gamer that can kind of pick these things up. Like as soon as you're thrown into combat, there's a 2-second tutorial, and then you've got like several rings of actions, and it's very much you either need to just be able to pick this stuff up pretty quick, or you need to already know the rules. I think that's kind of its only thing that might hold it back going a bit more mainstream. But yeah, I even if I don't play it that much, I get why people love it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I am kind of overwhelmed by choice at some times. Like, I know every game has, like, the speech check or, like, a star field. Like, like it says persuasion in square brackets and you fail and you're like, oh, well. But, like, the dice roll, for some reason, like, really makes me anxious. Like, oh, no, I failed that. What if I could have been best friends with this elf and maybe they would have been in my party as opposed to me just like slaughtering them mercilessly because I didn't get that check. Like it's exactly the same mechanic in a game, but like the dice roll of it, I don't know, just kind of like makes me seize up a bit. And I'm like, oh, I should go back to a save and I should try again. And like it's exactly what you think it is. You just go, oh, okay, like let me do this, like force hand wave, and the person you're speaking to says yes. Like you're not besties, they don't get to like join your party. But I'm just so, I don't know why it is with that. I think that's just something unique to the dice roll mechanic that I need to get over. I like it. It's just there's a lot. I didn't know what I thought it was going to be because I hadn't really read or seen a lot of Baldur's Gate before I went in, so I wasn't expecting kind of like the top down camera. I was thinking it was going to be like a first or third person kind of like over the shoulder or like through eyes sort of RPG. I don't know why I decided that, but that's kind of thrown me as well. I could see people getting incredibly immersed in it. It's the thing of like I don't know if I have time, and I'm not like a huge fantasy person, so I can appreciate the quality of the game. It's just kind of not for me, which is absolutely fine. Alan Wake 2 is clearly my Game of the Year winner. In the site agreed with me, thanks writers, but also like that's my personal one. You've finished it now, I think, is that right?
Finished it finally. Some many weeks after the spoiler cast, where you can go back and listen to that if you want the full chat. So we won't go full spoilers here. Finally finished it. It was one that I had to just get on my list and actually play, and definitely a game I'd recommend playing in like the week span or whatever. Not one to go back to because you kind of need to keep up with what's going on. I'd only just played past the musical section before the Game Awards, and that's why that's not a spoiler because they played the song live. I kind of feel like if I hadn't have just played that, I would have no idea what's going on during the Game Awards, and I only kind of twigged afterwards. It's like, hang on a second, if you hadn't played Alan Wake, that whole sequence would have been really weird to you. But yeah, very great game overall. I think I can see why people love it so much. I can also see why people be confused by it. I don't think you need to have played Alan Wake 1 to play this. It's definitely a lot more modern to play through. There is a remaster of the original if you want to play that. But yeah, it's very much a slowish pace, but still edge of your seat kind of game. Like it's not a quick 6-hour game. There's a bit of meat to it, but at the same time, you're always kind of edge of seat of what's about to happen next. Part of that's because of the jump scares. It does love a little, let's just throw something in your face. But also because you're trying to unravel what's actually happening, as Alan is trying to as well.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. I've played it fully, like basically twice because I missed a video that was kind of broken and glitched and I could have waited, but you know me and achievement. So I played it like twice on Xbox, once on PlayStation 5 all the way through and like halfway through on PC.
Wow.
Well, like, I love Alan Wake 2, but I can only play Alan Wake 2 fully so many times. So the final draft came out and I started again, and I just kind of, I couldn't do it. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but just because like I'd seen 95% of the beats before, and I'd already played it enough times that like most people would have, been playing the second or maybe third time, not the fifth time, to get the beats. So I will send you a video. There's like 14 or so minutes of new content in the final draft that kind of gives you the, like, I'm not going to spoil what Alan says at the end of the game, but like it plays to that trope, that theme. So you can kind of see the extra stuff that Remedy's added in. That if I don't get another Alan Wake game for 13 years, like that final draft ending has, like, I'm good for 13 years. If I need to wait 13 more years, like it's in a good place. And of course it's not going to end there, because there's the Remedy connected universe, there's Control stuff that's happening. Everything kind of feeds into everything else, which is just a really amazing thing. But like you were saying, I don't think you need to have played Alan Wake. I don't think you have to have played Control or Max Payne. But of course, if you're digging these things, Quantum Break as well, like the more Remedy things that you play, the richer your experience is going to be. And I would wholeheartedly suggest, if you've digged Control or Alan Wake 2 or any of these games, kind of just tap into the rest of them. Quantum Break's on Game Pass. Max Payne 1 and 2 are about to be re-released by Remedy in a remastered format. It's a good time to be a Remedy fan. We eat in good, family, so yay.
Yeah, and I think this one has gone a bit more mainstream than previous Remedy games, Max Payne aside. I think kind of they were all like the original Alan Wake and Control. Control's my favorite of Remedy's releases by far, I think. And Quantum Break to a lesser extent. I think the TV thing kind of threw some people off. But this one is kind of gone, it feels that next level. It feels that Witcher 3 level of it's kind of transcended the backstory and the history and its core fan base, and it's found a bunch more. Part of that because it had such exposure at something like the Game Awards, and I think also it's just had such coverage. And it came out in a real sweet spot of people have time to play it. There's a little bit of that recency bias of it's in the games we played recently, so it's memorable still. And I think it's because it and Baldur's Gate 3 are the two that people are talking about. It has that point of difference. Like if Baldur's Gate's not your thing, Alan Wake probably is. And if neither of them are, then Spider-Man or Zelda are. Like, so it's kind of like you can go back to a bit. Both of those are safer games. Both of these are a little bit more either dedicated or a little bit more obscure. In the case of Alan Wake, I think you kind of need to be more into that type of thing, or that kind of twist style mentality. So we eat good, generally speaking. There's so much options amongst the games which are nominated for Game of the Year this year.
Yeah, well, and like it's not even just like in games or like base games. We're getting DLC like Resident Evil 4's Separate Ways DLC, like you were talking about the other week. Like it's basically like it felt like a full game almost to me. It was priced at like $15, I think, Australian, and it was like a good 6-hour experience. I'm fine paying $15 for 6 hours. I'm good paying $60 for 6 hours if it's something engrossing, and that's exactly what Separate Ways was. So I think that was another one of those exceptions to your rule where you played it and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm down for that. One
of the few DLCs I played and completed, so absolutely worth it.
Nice. I think the only other unexpected win, as you've put it, is the Super Mario movie. And like, yeah, I agree, but also, was it unexpected? I think it was almost unexpected because we doubted the Chris Pratt of it all. I didn't really doubt the Nintendo Super Mario movie unless it was going to be live action with Bob Hosking. But I
didn't think it would be bad. I thought it was going to be like a serviceable, kids like it, does well enough, but we kind of then forget about it movie. I didn't think it was going to go break records and make like $1 billion+ almost instantly. And for me to watch it and get through it and actually not mind Chris Pratt and Charlie Day and kind of just accept it a few minutes in, and it was actually fine. So yeah, I think it was an even bigger hit than I expected it to be. Nice. And we should have probably had faith. Like we didn't really think they were going to stuff this up, but it was next level. And now Mario's got like a whole new generation of fans who know him as a movie character, not as a game character, which is wild.
The mind boggles. I think the live action Zelda movie has more likelihood of being a proper unexpected win, because I can't imagine that going
No.
well. I wish it the best, but I have no idea what's going to come of that. But I
No,
digress.
but we need to end on a high, so we'll leave it on Mario. I think that's pretty much it for this year. I think we're ready for 2024. There's some games coming out at least, but we've just gone through our mega backlogs we still need to actually play. So I think I'm stuck in 2023 for at least a few more days, trying to get through some of these Christmas, New Year games. And
Well, the highly anticipated for me, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, comes out on like the 18th of January, so maybe we'll have to reconvene around then to talk about that, because I really, really liked it. My preview's up on the website if you are so inclined to read. There's also like a 10-minute gameplay video. It's like Ori with weapons, and it's awesome. Like, so Ubi's done a lot of stuff that's not great, in my opinion, in the last little while, but Prince of Persia is not it, thankfully. We know where to find us. Go to Stevivor to click on our stuff to get us. Ben, it's been a remarkable 2023. There's been a lot of highs and lows, video game wise and personal wise. Congrats again on getting married, and I'm alive, so that's my achievement for the year.
what a win.
It's always a pleasure. This brings a smile to my face every time we do it. So thank you, my friend, for wasting a half an hour every week to shoot the shit with me.
Chat games, and thank you, listeners, for coming on this journey with us. We'll be away for a few more weeks, but we'll be back next year with, well, now you've committed to it, Prince of Persia. So I look forward to coming back for that.
It's good, though. You'll like it. Trust me.